Hey guys, what's up? It's Hope. Today is Sunday, February 18th, 2018, and I'm here to bring you a really quick update. Hopefully it'll be quick. I've got a lot to go over this week. This week was a huge week for us. I turned 20 weeks on Friday, and so we had our big 20-week anatomy scan this week on Wednesday on Valentine's Day. And then we also did our gender reveal this week. So I'm going to make sure and post footage of that after this video is posted. So I have a lot to go over in reference to week 20. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. If you haven't been following our journey, we did a frozen embryo transfer on October 18th, 2017. We found out that we were expecting and the transfer did work on November 1st, 2017. So I am currently 20 weeks along, and it has been just an absolute dream come true. We are so very, very, very excited. And so Wednesday was our big anatomy scan, and I was actually a lot more nervous than I thought I was going to be. Up until this point, you hope and pray that everything's going to be okay. You just assume that it will. You don't really know until you get to that appointment, and that's when they look at the baby from head to toe to make sure that everything is okay and that there aren't any complications that we need to pay close attention to. And so we did not do pre-genetic screening on any of our embryos. We had 3 after our egg retrieval, and so they transferred 1 and that one took. And so we didn't know the gender. We didn't know if anything was abnormal about that embryo. We just took whatever God gave us and hoped and prayed that everything would work out like it needed to. And so going into this anatomy scan was super nerve-wracking. I was definitely really nervous about it. So it was Wednesday, Valentine's Day, and so I actually ended up taking the day off. I've been having a ton of issues with swelling, and so that's kind of been the really main symptom that I've had from week 14 on, and it's just been really bad, especially in my feet and ankles. And so I wanted to make sure and talk to my doctor about that, and just make sure that everything was okay with my blood pressure. I'd already called the nurse a couple weeks before that just to let them know that I was having this issue. And then I felt like I was retaining a lot of fluid. And so even my hands are swollen. I feel like I'm swollen everywhere. And so she made sure to let me know, obviously, that's a normal symptom when it comes to pregnancy. And that you just have to make sure and keep an eye on your blood pressure. And they wanted me to go ahead and start drinking tons of lemon water because it's a natural diuretic. I drink a lot of water anyway. I actually haven't had caffeine since before our transfer in October. All I drink is water, 24/7, all day long. I feel like all I do is drink water. I honestly don't think I've drank this much water in my entire life. So I'm definitely staying hydrated for sure. But really, so going into this ultrasound, I was super excited about it also because Andy was going to be able to go with me, and he hadn't actually seen the baby in an ultrasound type setting since week 8. And so when we graduated from our fertility clinic at week 12, he wasn't able to go because he had to work. And so we did do a mini ultrasound a couple of weeks prior to this appointment because they were having a hard time finding the heartbeat. But it was literally on this little portable ultrasound machine, and he got to see it for literally like 3 seconds. And so I was really excited for him to be able to see the baby and look and be able to have that experience. Obviously the baby had done a ton of growing since 8 weeks. And so I was really excited that he was going to get to go. Another really exciting part of this ultrasound was that we were going to be able to find out the gender of our baby. That was something that we'd been looking forward to for a really long time. And so that was something that we were really kind of focusing on that. And so instead of like trying to focus on like stress and anxiety, I was trying to focus on that, making sure that we got a good answer in reference to what the gender of our baby is, because the following Saturday, yesterday, we had our gender reveal. So I wanted to make sure that we were obviously able to get the right answer so we could do our gender reveal party. So that was something that we had been looking forward to for a very, very, very long time. But I'll get into the gender reveal party later because it was absolutely a dream come true kind of day. And so our appointment wasn't until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we had literally all day long to wait for this appointment. And so we finally got there. and they immediately took me back to do the anatomy scan. Now, my doctor specifically wanted to make sure that I had a full bladder when we did the anatomy scan. And so we went in, and immediately she was able to find the baby. It was moving all over the place like crazy, and it was so sweet to be able to see Andy look at the baby and see how big it had grown. And of course, I just literally cried the entire time. It was just an absolute miracle, and it's so beautiful, and it still is so surreal for me. I just still can't even believe this is real life. I'm not gonna cry, but I looked over at the screen and I just cried the entire time. Just so incredibly grateful for this chance. And so the nurse immediately went to work trying to get the measurements and checking from head to toe if baby was okay. And I enjoyed really getting to see a little bit of that. I was really scared to look because, we had decided early on that we kind of went back and forth. I, of course, wanted to be able to find out when Andy found out, and so we were going to do it at the gender reveal. But the more we talked about it, the more Andy really wanted to find out before the gender reveal, and I did not. And so we talked about it back and forth, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, if this is going to be the only thing he fights me on, and he wants to find out the gender of our baby before I do, I really could care less. I felt like I was going to cry and be so incredibly excited no matter what the gender was that I was really indifferent to it. And so it was really kind of cool that he got to play one of the very important roles of the gender reveal in trying to make sure that the preparations were in line to be able to reveal the actual gender. So I was super excited for that, but I was nervous to look at the screen because obviously it's moving all around, and I didn't want to see something I wasn't supposed to see and completely ruin our plan. And so I looked for a little while, and then I'd look away just because I was nervous about seeing something I wasn't supposed to be seeing. We got to listen to the heartbeat, which is just, every time we get to do that, it's the most incredible feeling. It's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm just absolutely in love with this little miracle. I just am so grateful for this chance. And so the nurse turned the screen away when she was trying to find the gender, and the baby crossed its legs, and all of a sudden she said that she was able to find it. And I'll never forget looking up at Andy's face and seeing his entire face light up when he saw what he thought he saw. And so that was just a really cool memory for me. I'll never ever forget that. It was so special for him, and I was just really grateful we were able to get the actual gender so we could continue with our gender reveal party. And so that was amazing, but the anatomy scan went great. So after our anatomy scan was over, we went in to see our doctor for the actual 20-week checkup. And I wanted to talk to her about the swelling and just some other questions that I had. So we've obviously wanted to make sure that the anatomy scan went good. And so she walks in, and the first thing out of her mouth is, "Oh my gosh, you have a really big baby." And of course I was like, "What? Is that bad?" And she said, no, it's not bad. She said, "But we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on it." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, at 19 and a half weeks, which is where I was on Valentine's Day, because I didn't turn 20 weeks until Friday, she said, it's supposed to weigh around 8.5 ounces. And she said, your baby weighs almost 14 ounces. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she said, yeah, so it's definitely a bigger baby. We're going to have to keep an eye on it. She said, so right now it's measuring a week to a week and a half ahead. And that's something that the baby is measured. I said this, I think, in my last video, but it's always measured ahead, 5 days to a week ahead since the very beginning. And so now we're a week and a half ahead. And so the baby is definitely measuring bigger than what is supposed to be. So she's going to keep a good eye on that. When she told me that, I said, well, I'm not sure if this makes any difference or not, but the husband was actually 6 weeks early and was 10 pounds and 10 ounces. Like his mom had no complications during her pregnancy. He just grew really big. And so they ended up having to take him obviously via C-section at 6 weeks early. And so anyway, when I told her that, her eyes just got huge, and she was like, I'm so glad you told me that. And I said, well, I wasn't sure if it really mattered or not. And she said, it absolutely matters for sure. She said, anytime one of the parents were that big, we want to definitely keep an eye on the baby, especially since our baby is already measuring well ahead of gestation. So we are going to be keeping an eye on this baby for sure. I have no idea of what that's going to be like at the end, or how big it's going to be, or what our plan's going to be at the end. But we're just going to continue to monitor it to make sure that it's healthy, and to make sure I don't have any issues. And so she did go over the anatomy scan. She said everything else looked absolutely wonderful. She said there were no complications, no abnormalities that she could see. She did say because the baby was moving around so much, they didn't get a clear picture of the heart. And so she said she felt like it was only because it was moving around, not because there was something wrong. And so they're going to have me go back on March 10th at 24 weeks, just so they can make sure and get a clear picture of the heart to make sure that everything is okay with the heart. So that definitely made me a little anxious, but she reassured me that she didn't feel like anything was wrong. Like I said, she just wants to make sure and get a better picture of it. And so I was really grateful that everything went okay with the anatomy scan, that we were able to get the gender. I did talk to her about my swelling. She did look at my feet and my ankles and was really surprised at just how big my feet had gotten. And just being only 19 and a half weeks, typically you have some swelling, but y'all, my ankles look like they belong to a 40-week pregnant lady. Like, it is crazy. She pressed on them. There's a lot of pitting edema, and it's very, very, very uncomfortable. I'm literally coming home every single night and propping my feet up. Like, I don't have a choice. They're so big. And she said she wants me to obviously watch my salt intake, to continue drinking lots of lemon water, and then she prescribed some compression hoses just to try to see if we can get the swelling down. She had me lay back and actually measure my belly, and she said my belly's actually measuring 2 weeks ahead. And she said, so we're going to make sure and listen to my body, and if my body's saying that I'm measuring 2 weeks ahead, then, obviously my body thinks it's further along than it actually is, and so that's a normal thing for your feet and other limbs to swell. But my blood pressure, I haven't had a single issue with blood pressure. I have been checking it daily just to make sure that everything stays normal. It's either normal or a little bit under normal. It's never been high, and so that's something she wasn't really concerned about in reference to swelling and blood pressure. But it is something I'm going to continue to monitor, of course. And then I talked to her about my excessive thirst, and she said also that's another symptom of just normal pregnancy symptoms. She said so. She wasn't really too concerned about that also. And so she said she was just going to continue monitoring the baby and monitoring me. She did go ahead and move our due date up. We were scheduled to have the baby on July 6th, and it has been moved up a week to June 29th. She said she would be really surprised if we went to the end of June, just because the baby's measuring so big, and with me already swelling, and just she's going to have to keep a really close eye on it. And so she felt like moving it up a week was a safe bet, but she's pretty certain that it'll be sometime in June that we'll have our baby. So they're definitely keeping an eye on it, and we'll just have to see what happens afterwards. So I'm actually going to post another video about our gender reveal, but just some other interesting facts about the baby. The heartbeat this week was 143 beats per minute. Like I said, it was almost 14 ounces at 19 and a half weeks. No real symptoms or complications other than the swelling, of course, and excessive thirst. But I'm not complaining at all. All of this obviously comes with this experience, and I'm so grateful to be here. And I don't really have any complications or any complaints, really, that are just making my life absolutely miserable. Obviously, I can kind of take what's thrown at me. I'm just going to be grateful for the experience, and we'll just have to see how everything plays out. So be on the lookout for a video regarding the gender reveal, and obviously telling y'all what the gender of our baby is. That is coming very, very soon. And so this is the end of my 20-week update. I hope you all had an amazing day. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to post your questions below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!